Hey, Mary, you got another copy of the Community Development Space?
Gardner City Council will come to order. If you would please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much for being here this evening. We do have a couple of presentations tonight. Scott and Jim could not be here. However, Jason and Jackie are here, so I think it's good to do some recognition. Jason, you want to come on up? This is the part where you get to stand up and give a speech. Now, Jody gave you that information, right, about the speech and all? I don't know about that. You didn't know? He didn't tell you about that, huh? Okay. Well, Jason joined us in October of 2007, 5 years here with the City of Gardner. He's in a nice climate-controlled job in streets. So he's very fortunate that he sees all the seasons on a regular basis and does a great job. We've done a lot of changing in the last 5 years, doing some cross-training and utilizing our public works folks in ways that, help in efficiency, but also help in cost. And we're very grateful for you in working with us on that and pulling together to help out our community. I know it's in those 5 years, our streets have gotten a little bit older. We haven't had that many new ones put in that 5 years, but we've got plenty of existing streets. So it's a challenging job, and with this nice cold weather we've had and the thaw we're going to have this week, and I'm sure it'll get cold again. That'll help make some work for you when the weather gets nicer. Jody, did you want to say anything?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what he's saying is you have a lot of job security. Well, like I said, Jason's been with us for 5 years. Jason's one of my primary equipment operators. Of recent note on Jason was this last fall, he competed in an American Public Works Association Equipment Expo with metropolitan surrounding operators. And Jason, in a field of about 50 operators, came in 6th, 7th place in backhoe operations. And for a town our size, with an operator with a skill set that high, we're very fortunate to have him. So, Jason, it's been great working with you for 5 years. Thank you for so much for your time and your caring.
Awesome. That's wonderful. That's good news. Glad to hear that. So, you working up for this year's competition? Gonna
You betcha.
move up the rank?
You betcha.
I hope so.
All right. All right. Well, listen, we do have a certificate recognizing your service and thanking you for your service, and then there is a small little token of our appreciation for sticking with us and doing such a great job. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Okay. All right. Very good. Jackie Schultz, there you go. Jackie also has been with us 5 years. She has come into our finance department and came in again at a tough time, one that was stressful for all communities, but also Jackie was given the glorious responsibility of filing our CAPR every year, and has done a fantastic job as we continue to receive recognition of excellence from the Government Finance Officers Association. And I'm very pleased to report that there was a blue folder sitting on my desk with a notice from GFOA that she's done it again. So that is absolutely great news. Now, we don't have the award yet, and we'll obviously have we'll have to you have to work late another night on another Monday and accept the award, but I think that's great news. We, again, with the changes in what we've had to do, Jackie's had to be very flexible and accommodating in these tough times, but has done a fantastic job, as attested by our successful audits year over year. So for that, we are very grateful for all your hard work and most appreciative. And Laura, I assume you have
Of course I do.
words. I've never known you not to.
I was going to say, I knew that was coming. I knew you would. Absolutely. This is the very embodiment of patience, serenity, professionalism, thinking of the city above herself, giving me that look. I mean, and if you look up serenity in the dictionary, and there she is. She is absolutely all that in a bag of chips, and couldn't be prouder.
Awesome. Very good.
You're welcome.
And a little token of our recognition, and of course, something to have a little bit of fun with. You don't have to tell anyone that you got that. That's your magic. So anyway, did you want to say anything? I'm sorry, I didn't give you the opportunity to speak, but.
No, I'm good.
Did you want to say anything?
Well, when I started here at the city, I didn't have any government experience, so these past 5 years have been challenging but very rewarding that I've been able to add that to my resume now. And I just look forward to many more years because I enjoy what I do.
Great. Well, thank you. That's awesome. Okay, we do have some cookies, coffee, and so we're going to take a little break. Give the council an opportunity to come down and congratulate you both, and give everybody a chance to get a snack and mingle a little bit. Awesome. That's right.
I didn't want to do it if somebody else had already done it or I was ready to get back.
Thank you.
I remember there was a phrase, but I didn't remember.
Yeah, no, they went out and got it, and hurricane took all the
Yeah.
Thank you all very much, I appreciate that, and I know folks appreciate it too when we have an opportunity to recognize their service. It's always good to have a crowd here in the new year. We will now move on with the rest of our agenda. There is time allotted on our agenda. If anyone would like to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing, you would come forward, state your name and address, so the clerk can have it for the record.
Hello, I'm Harold Quaintance, 15735 Lake Road 5. You know where I live.
That's right.
But we've done our usual calendar thing for Gardner Lake. These are all pictures from the lake. And I'll distribute these to you. You want to take a note of the May month in there. There's going to be a few of you that have seen this, but not too many. And I put a right up in the back of the history of the lake.
Oh,
It
perfect.
came from a paper on the 150th anniversary, I think. Now, most of you probably read it. Cheryl did not. Oh, man. I'm going to come up one short.
We'll share for now.
I'll get you one. But the May month in there, you'll notice that that's an old swimming hole, and that was Gardner's swimming pool.
Yeah.
Where the lake house is right now. And so, anyway, that's a little bit of history, and then other history in the back.
Yeah, that was open when we moved here. And when did we sell that? We sold that lake house 90?
Something like that, yeah. I think I wish you buy it back.
For sale. To buy it back there if you want.
Well, somebody needs to reserve that thing. It's pretty nifty. Other than that, I wanted to comment about the increased price on the lake frontages. I understood that had never been appraised. I have documents that said it has been appraised. Dillon and Quitt did it when the task force was working on this at the tune of about $750. So that's the reason that the price got where it is. The price has been talked about as being too low. This is a unique piece of real estate that we're talking about. It isn't like the house up and down the street that you might want to buy. It's landlocked, and there's only one person that's really interested in it, and that's the people that are right there. So that was the reason for the low price on it. So I have the document here that says that, okay, it says Mr. Dillon. Now this came from Sharon Hansen to Stuart Fairborn on October 22nd, 2010. Mr. Dillon has asked that I forward to you the attached analysis. A hard copy has been placed in today's outgoing mail. If you have any questions, give me a call. And that was from Dillon and Quitt. So, that being said, I would like for you to reconsider on this doubling the price. There are some people out there that are been saving up for this, haven't got the job done yet. More than half the real estate market hasn't really gone up double. And so, if you would give us some consideration as far as that's concerned, why, we would appreciate it. I think the price that where it is right now is not out of line due to the type of property we're talking about. And if you want this piece of paper, you may have it. It says you're not supposed to copy it, so I didn't copy one for everybody. Anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you, Harold, very much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else? That being the case, we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a council member who wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? Number 3.
Number 4, and based on the last comment, number 5.
How would council like to proceed with consent items 1 and 2?
I move we approve consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Motion Morrow, second Harrison, that we approve consent items 1 and 2. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consent item number 3, consider the reappointment of Randy Tedford and Lance Boyd to the electric utility. Larry?
I was curious, is Lance still a member of the KMEA? Is that?
Think he-
Yes.
Is it KMEA or is it the?
Yeah, Kansas Municipal Energy or Electric Agency.
Okay. And what does the city pay for that association? Anyone know?
No, we don't know. I'm not paying them.
Again, I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, it appeared to me to be a conflict of interest. Someone sitting on a committee or a board that also helps decide if we're members of the organization. And I mean, really, we get his advice as part of that fee. So I don't see how it's right to have him on that board as well. I'm sure he's a great guy, full of knowledge and everything, but it just seems like a conflict of interest to me.
I would defer to Jim, but my understanding is that whether it be an appointed board or whether it be an elected board, that if there's a matter for which there is a potential conflict, that individual should abstain from voting. Is that correct for appointed boards as well?
There's legal conflict of interest, and then there's just an appearance of a conflict of interest. It doesn't, I don't know exactly what those jobs are and what the board is, but probably not a legal conflict of interest unless you feel somehow that, it's an appearance of a conflict that you would rather avoid, even though it's not a legal conflict.
Okay.
But certainly you can abstain from any discussion or any voting
Relative
regarding
to that.
the issue. You have a legal conflict.
I would say, Lance deals with governing bodies across the state. I can't imagine that he put himself in a position, I know he's not here this evening, but I can imagine that he put himself in a compromising position, that would certainly abstain before he did so.
But every decision that he makes furthers his organization's interest, really. I mean, if the utility gets larger, spends more money, it, buys more products from, it would appear that his organization gets larger and has a bigger treasury because of it.
With that said, Larry, the other question I have is, since the EUB is an extension of the council, did we seek any candidates for this appointment other than these two gentlemen? I'm familiar with Lance and Randy for that matter, but did we seek any other candidates for this appointment?
No, our practice has been that if an incumbent in an appointed position would like to continue, and there's no, nothing that in their performance that's created a problem, in the past we've just said okay and not gone out. I mean, that, as far as a policy change, I mean, if we would want to install that if there is an opening, that we, open it up for application, let the incumbent apply, and then anyone else interested, we can, develop a policy. I don't think there's a necessary from an ordinance perspective.
Well, I'm not interested in policy, I'm just
Yeah.
interested in if we just
No, I mean, that's just in the practice.
ask a question from a due diligence perspective.
The beginning of, certainly my experience, and that's just the way it's been done.
And the main reason I asked for number 40 was kind of the same conversation was, I believe that we should, I would like to see us instill something that whether more formally that says if we have, whether it's planning commission, EUB, airport board, which I'm not very familiar with, that something gets sent out or distributed, even if it's an email or something on the city website that says these positions are going to be expiring. If there's any interest, go ahead and submit it in some way, and then I just think that will give other people a chance that wouldn't have expressed interest before, right, the knowledge, and not that we need to go to significant extremes, I just think that would be beneficial.
Well, we can, from the standpoint of, further discussion regarding the policy, we can let it go. They'll remain in their current position until we reappoint. If you want to do that, put it on a work session, talk about the policy.
I think there's definitely good, a work session topic, and exactly how we like that to be, bring the recommendation forward, and how it's actually briefed to the council, and how involved through the process the council will be. I think definitely something to discuss.
Because I think even this conversation's the right step in the right direction, you're just talking about. If nothing changes, nothing changes, but I think there needs to be some effort.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing that, in other words, we won't be without, those positions won't be vacant.
No.
If we decide tonight, so, okay.
Because they were just holding the seat until that takes place.
Until that takes place, and then we put it, I have no,
How's that any different? I mean, they're reappointed, or we just leave them? How is it different?
Well, there'd be that due diligence that we're talking about, posted on the website.
we're just delaying the reappointment process. We're going to allow them to continue in that seat until a decision regarding the process is made, the policy developed, is what I hear, and then go out for interest, and if there's interest, go through the selection process.
When would they have expired anyhow?
January, I think, for the utility board and the airport position.
January as well, Mayor?
Is it January also? Okay. But if that's agreeable, we just need a motion to table 3 and 4.
I move we table items 3 and 4.
Second?
Motion Harrison, second Gorsick, that we table consent items 3 and 4 to March, February, or just...
We table it to the first meeting of March and a February work session to discuss it. That should give us a month to at least prepare the conversation.
That sounds good.
Okay, first meeting in March.
And we need to have wording in place that allows it to serve in the time since their appointments.
I think it's a default within the ordinance already.
In the past, it's just happened. I don't know that, after referring into Jim, is that?
Yeah, usually you serve until you are replaced.
Okay, perfect. All right, so there was a motion. It was Harrison and Gorsick. Harrison, the motion.
Table to March 4th?
To March 4th. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. And then finally, consent agenda item number 5, consider the establishment of a price of $1.20 per square foot for the sale of property pursuant to the February 11th, 2011 Gardner Lake land sale policy during calendar year 2013. Christie, you asked us before.
Yeah, I guess I read through this and I understand from an appraisal perspective, but I guess what I'm struggling with is we had a committed price, much to what Harold was saying, and people have been kind of working toward that. I don't know that changing this now is the right thing.
How long has 56 cents price been in place? I know it was through last year, so it's been for the last 2 years.
Yeah, since we made this agreement.
Okay.
Who paid for the appraisal on that?
The city did.
And we chose the appraiser as well, I guess, I'm assuming?
Pardon?
We chose the appraiser and...
Yes.
I mean, prices do change. And 2010 was a worse year than 2012, I think.
From the city's perspective, what would be the impact if we don't raise the cost? What would be the city's financial impact if we don't raise the cost of the purchase?
Probably need to give a little history on what's going on here. Harold pointed out that we did apparently have an appraisal done. We have no record of that we can find in the city records. So it's good news to find that we at least did have an appraisal done at that time. The policy that is currently in place was started in March of 2010 and has run until the 31st of December of 2012. And that was a very long period of time to leave a price in place, and it was thought to be at the time a sufficient length of time for anyone who was really interested to make the purchase. That has turned out to be not quite the case, at least. We have people who have expressed interest and who have not followed through on that to the tune of about 30 to 35 different individuals. And we don't know whether they intend to proceed at some point or not. But the recommendation that we made along with the having it appraised again and recommended the price from that appraisal was that anyone who has already submitted a survey, that price, 56 cents, be held for anyone who has done so. The only reason we didn't recommend that you also include those who haven't proceeded at all, but did express interest, is because we do have 35 or 40 of them, and we don't know if they're ever going to come forward or not. After almost 2 years, why maybe they're not going to. We just don't know. You can't hold it forever.
What's the rough average on the square footage for one of those lots? I don't need to pinpoint. I just don't. I know we passed you. I just don't have any of the numbers in front of me.
2,000 to 4,000 square feet, I think. What do you think?
It ranges actually from about 600 square feet all the way up to over 8,000 square feet. Very few of them hit that 8,000. There's a couple maybe that might. It would have to be at least 8,000 square feet to be a buildable lot. And none of them have come in so far has actually been buildable. They've all been slightly under.
Jim, do you know how many people have submitted surveys who would be kind of under this grandfathered into that 56 cents?
We have a total of 103 at this point who have expressed interest. And of that, there's about 35 who have not proceeded. So there's around 70 that was total. And we've only had, I believe it was, going from memory here, I believe there were about 42 who have completed the whole process. The remainder are still in the process. And there has been a little difficulty with it because of the nature of the development out at Gardner Lake. The county surveyor has been plotting each one of the surveys as they come in. And sometimes it has taken a little bit of time to resolve what has become some issues, because one surveyor comes in and he holds this control, and another one comes in the same block and he holds a different control. So that has to be resolved if they're not lining up. And out of Gardner Lake, very few will line up the first time. So the two surveyors don't have to get together and resolve those issues before the plat can be recorded. And that's been taking for the surveyors to get together. That's the part that's been holding things up. And sometimes that has taken as long as 3 or 4 months.
Can I just ask a question on ongoing processes? Is the recommendation, Jim, from you that we go through this reappraisal every couple of years and make this because I mean, I think that would be beneficial for people to know out there that if this passes at $1.20 in 2 more years.
How long?
Exactly. So is that your recommendation that we establish some sort of formality for this?
I don't know that we actually need to. The reason that we have gone through another appraisal now is because we didn't know we had the initial appraisal. And because it came to the councilman that they asked that we look at it. So we did look at it. And the appraiser that we hired is the one who said, just as the initial appraisal was. There will be some differences between them, but after 2 years. They did have some comparables on vacant lots that we're building. And the price for those is $6 to $10 a square foot. So, yes, these tracts generally are not buildable. And probably the only other person other than the city that would be interested in having for ownership would be the adjacent homeowner, the resident. So it's difficult for me to actually say. I would recommend that we look at it at least every 2 years just to see if there has been any changes, because if the economy would improve, the housing market come up, and those could change more drastically.
Jim, what's the associated cost for looking at that on a 2-year frequency? Rough number.
It's about $700 to $1,000. I don't recall exactly what we paid for this latest appraisal, but it's in that ballpark.
$500 a year to confirm the cost per square foot.
I guess, you know, for background purposes, obviously, we got to this point, you know, based on issues that arose over the years. You know, we were tasked with policing our requirements for that property, which is, you know, you can't put structures on it, can't put fences on it, et cetera. And, you know, there was a sentiment of, you know, leave us alone and we'll be fine. And then if somebody put something on that property that, you know, a neighbor down the way didn't care for, then we get a complaint, hey, come on out and enforce your requirements. And that's kind of how it went on over time. So, the discussion was, you know, what's it there for? Is to provide access, you know, to the lake and so on. And, you know, and we, in this process, did have some identified properties that we're retaining and not going to sell, so that we do have access down to the water. And you know, but you know, there's this protection around the edge. And so Brian Broxman, who was on council at the time, along with Stuart Fairburn and Harold, a number of folks from the lake residents, worked quite a few weeks on the process and came up with the current agreement. That's how, you know, the county was involved, obviously, because so it was a fairly lengthy deal. And you know, the conversations we had at the time were, you know, well, you know, we're not really in this to make money. You know, it was mostly just to one, that there'd be some amount of money to so that we're not, you know, just giving it away and everybody signing up for free land, but again, not to the point of making it a commercial endeavor. And you know, I don't know how many properties are, you know, in the grand scheme, even at, you know, $1.20, it's not gonna be a whole, much of a dent, in the reserves if we were to sell all these properties. So, I mean, that's kind of the history of how we got to that number. And I was with Jim, I didn't know that we actually had an appraisal that came in at 56 cents. So that is good to know. I think it was just a number that was agreed upon. But I
guess the part I'm still wondering about is, if we leave it at 56 cents, what cost is it? Is the city trying to, does that have any kind of money that's trying to recover with those additional 54 or 64 cents? That's the part.
There was no intention, that has been stated, that we were trying to make any money with that or
Recover fees.
recover fees on it. We were just wanting to get a fair market value for the sale.
One thought I've just had kind of looking at this is it possible to, because the 56 cents, like Gerald leaned to, is there's folks that have been saving for that, and that's the number that they've been working with. And it may not accomplish anything more than we're at right now. We may always have 30 or 35 people that aren't going to speak to it or haven't turned surveys in. But is it possible to grandfather that in for current owners, and then if there's any change in ownership, that they come up to the newly appraised cost? Is there a benefit to doing that? If I'm the only one there, then let me know. I won't go any further. That's just a thought I had.
In the original agreement, I thought that if there is a new homeowner, they do have to purchase that property, right? It's not, it's automatically resurveyed and included?
No.
Is that not, okay.
No.
I don't think that's.
They don't have to purchase it. I mean, it's just been an offer for anyone who is out there, current or future owners, who would be interested in making the purchase. And the price expired at the 31st of December, but the actual offer of sale did not.
Well, I guess it was appraised at that, so I assume that the appraisal took into consideration that if we put a sign on it for sale, and we'll sell it to you for $1.20 a square foot, keeping in mind that the only access you have to this property is from the water.
Right.
And we went out on the market and negotiated a sale. I'm guessing that's how they got to that $1.20. That's what you could reasonably expect for a piece of ground that is accessible only by water. And so they, and that was I think that may have played into the discussion too with respect to the sale, that truly holds no value to anyone other than an adjacent property owner.
And for us, the real value was us not having to deal administratively with it. So I would say for us, it was more of a cost savings measure, not necessarily a revenue driving measure. And if we raise the price, if people already can't do it at 56 cents, and we now virtually double it, I mean, it's now $1.20, and we're still administratively dealing with issues and.
That's right. I mean, the city has a duty to respect the opinion of appraisers. I mean, he's taken all those things into account. It's presumed. I mean, I don't know if anyone's looked at the appraisal to see if there's anything questionable about it, but it's assumed that he did his job. And unless they can come up with an appraisal that's different and look at different land sales, then we have to go with what the professional said.
Actually, I mean, it sounds like Harold's got a copy of an appraisal that appraises the property at 56 cents.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Right.
But the way it reads in the background here is that this is what the cost of the land would be, but the discounting the price range by 75 to 80% is kind of arbitrary. At least the way that it's explained here, it appears to be.
Well, the other discussion is that if you put a piece of property on the market for $1.20 a square, and it doesn't sell, and someone comes up and says, how much you want for it? I say $1.20 a square, and they say, well, I'll give you 70 cents. You go off and think about it and make a decision.
For your unusable piece of land, that really fits your value.
You know, I mean, so really, it's not, you know, that's, I guess, one of the things that we're looking at is, you know, from a policy perspective, we're setting it at this price and saying we're not going to take no less. But I don't, does the policy prevent us from taking less? Again, is a question I would have. You know, are we saying, no, it's $1.20, if you don't give us $1.20, you know, we're not selling? I mean, is that a...
But how would you differentiate that? I mean, so if somebody is willing to pay, so if somebody comes in tomorrow and says, okay, I'm going to pay you $1.20, but then somebody comes in the next day and says, I don't want to pay you $1.20, I'm going to pay you $70. I mean, how do we, if we don't set it, then how do we?
It's done that way every day.
I know, but
You
not
know,
by governing body. I mean, not.
I know, but I mean,
Because
you know, but if we, you know, we sold the old city hall for some value, right? And I don't know what it came to at a per square at the downtown. If we were to sell, I don't know, the park maintenance building, trying to come up with property we own downtown. If the offer came in at 20 cents or 30 cents less per square foot than what we sold the old city hall for, nothing would preclude us from accepting that offer.
Yeah, but
You know, even if you know, if we got an offer of 70 cents per square, and for the purposes of the video, we're not selling park maintenance building, but we got an offer of 70 cents, but our appraiser said it was $1.20. There's nothing that would preclude us from selling it for 70 cents a square foot.
So the $1.20 is just a list price?
I don't know.
So we have a
That's my question. I mean,
content expert in the real estate business. I mean, isn't that right, Larry? If you have a house that's going to sell for $120,000 and somebody wants to buy it for $100,000 and the seller is willing to take $20,000 in the shorts to get out from under it or whatever the situation is, it wouldn't preclude the seller from selling it for $20,000 less. Based on the list price.
But, you know, in this case, we're actually the financing owner of the sale, and, you know, I think if this were a bank, we would say we're not selling it for less. And if this were a bank-owned property, we would say it's worth $6 to $10 a square foot, right? I mean,
Be trying to operate at a profit for.
I think
I don't know what it's like.
Jim, I leaned in earlier, did you have a thought? I know she tried to get something in, but.
Well, first off, I think you want to make sure this property ends up in the hands of the adjoining property owner. You don't want an intervening property owner having a little piece of ground that he's going to drive his boat up to and get out. You'll have innumerable problems with neighbors if you do that. Number two, you know, I think the real purpose here is to get rid of this ground, get it into the adjoining property owner's hands, so it'll be taken care of, and we won't have to worry about it ourselves. I don't know how an appraiser appraises property like this. It's mainly unbuildable lots. You can probably get 5 appraisers, and you're going to get 5 different answers. It'd be very difficult in today's environment to come up with a price. It's all based on comparables. Where are you going to really get any valuable, correct comparables for unbuildable ground around Gardner Lake?
All the comparables from unbuildable ground around Gardner Lake were sold at 56 cents per foot. I mean, you know, so
I think you really just.
But does our policy
want to
also,
move this property.
our policy currently limits who
It does limit who can purchase the property, it has to be the additional. But let me make a suggestion. Putting it out there is something that would be negotiable, would put staff in a very, very awkward
Yeah,
position.
and you eliminate the whole thing of eliminating the administrative part of this. I mean, now you have trying to negotiate deal, you just added a whole nother level of administration.
So as a suggestion, since we actually have an appraisal at 56 cents, maybe we average the two and say, you know, essentially it's 60 cents, 120, so the 90 and 12 difference.
Hey, you know, Harold, we ask tough questions of staff that oftentimes they don't have the answers at their fingertips, so you might not know this, but you mentioned that there's people that have been saving for this 56 cents a square foot figure. How many people have been saving for
Don't know that. Don't know that.
I was afraid of that, but I figured I'd ask.
I don't know that. That was from another lady at the lake that said that this was going on. And so it was reliable, but it was still hearsay. So I don't have the figures.
Okay.
Could I make a comment?
Sure, come on up.
Gosh, I appreciate you people doing all this dialogue on this thing. And I really regret that you had it reappraised. Not that it's higher, but for the expense. The fact of the matter is, you're going to get a very minimal group that's going to buy from now on. So whether it's 56 or 40, it isn't going to make much difference in your bottom line. Your bottom line. So, but I appreciate your dialogue. I mean, you're spending a lot of time on this. So, but and I will. I talked to Mr. Witt today, and I said, I understand you have a disc about this appraisal. And he said, it'll take me a couple of days to get it, but it's available. And so, if you want me to, or maybe if you don't want me to, I think I'll call him and have him send that disc to you folks again, so you can see what it was in actuality. And, but my papers that I have, you're welcome to those too.
Thank you, Harold. Well, it's out there, we probably ought to take some action on this item. Is there a recommendation?
I think the thing that we have to remember is we're here representing the taxpayers of Gardner. And no matter what the party on the other side of the transaction has saved for or planned for, this is a real estate transaction. And even at the current price, we're giving the buyers 75 to 80% off. So in answer to your question, it's not $20,000 less on a $120,000 sale. It's, you know, $80,000 less. I don't see any defensible reason why we can't accept the advice of an appraiser and seek the best price and terms for our clients, which is citizens of Gardner, regrettably not necessarily the citizens of Gardner Lake, although I know some of them do have, you know, are within the city limits. I mean, that's our only job here, right?
Well, yeah, but I also look at part of that is to make sure from an administrative perspective, our city staff people are not spending a lot of administrative time doing this, and that's exactly why all of this came to fruition. So when you talk about saving money and getting the best, getting the best price, the flip side of that is, if we didn't do any of this, we would be paying staff to address issues at Gardner Lake consistently because of that property. So,
Yep, that's
I mean,
true too.
to
What
me,
Jim said, that the city's best interest is to have this in someone else's best interest at this point. And that's where I stand.
So I would need a motion of something.
All right.
Table,
Can I make a motion to establish a sales price of 56 cents?
You certainly may.
All right. I move that we establish a sales price of 56 cents per square foot for the sale of property pursuant to the February 11, 2011 Gardner Lake land sale policy during calendar year 2013.
second.
Motion Freeman, second Harrison, that we establish a sale price of 56 cents per square foot for the sale of property pursuant to the February 11th Gardner Lake Land Sale Policy during the calendar year 2013. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you. Good discussion.
Sounds good, so.
Okay, couple of items on new business. We have added a sixth item, authorized the city administrator to appoint community development director, and it has been requested that we move item number 5, the proposal for audit services with Alan Gibbs and Kulik, to the first item on the agenda, so that the representative from the firm who's here can get on with this evening if there is no objection. Hearing none, Laura. This is currently listed as item 5. Consider authorizing the city administrator to accept the proposal for audit services with Allen Gibbs and Kulik LC for fiscal year 2012, 2013, and 2014, and execute an engagement letter for auditing services for fiscal year 2012.
At council's request, last year when you extended the current auditors one more year to get us through a new accounting standard, you implied pretty heartily that you would like a new firm, not because the other firm did anything wrong, but because you wanted a fresh look. So, upon your wishes, staff embarked on an RFP process, and we sent an RFP to 5 auditing firms that we were familiar with, and we also advertised on the city website and in the official city newspaper. And then we held a pre-proposal conference, and we had attendees from 3 firms. There was a 4th that indicated they were coming, but they did not come. And when the proposals were actually received, we only received 2. It is a best practice to avoid bias among proposals to, it's something we haven't done recently, but we're doing it now, to involve other departments in the scoring of these RFPs. And so we used 4 staff members representing 3 departments to score these, and as you can see, the total average score was very heavily in favor of Allen Gibbs and Kulik. Allen Gibbs and Kulik is one of the largest EPA firms in the Midwest, and governmental audits are 40% of their audit practice. They have approximately 115 employees, 8 of which are wholly dedicated to governmental audits, and 23 others with governmental audit experience. They're also a founding member of the McGladrey Alliance, which means that they have the access to additional national expertise from nearly 100 other offices. I don't know that they'll need it, but we've got it if we need it. I thought you would find this most interesting. Their top 5 most significant audits in the last 5 years. AGH does the 2 largest counties in the state, in addition to some of the largest entities, as you can see, both in population and in budget. And I would also point out for decades. Benefits to the city. This auditing firm actually has a proposed team, a really great combination of public experience, auditing experience, actual practical experience, private sector experience, and as we choose them, we get the benefit of a year-long relationship and always available to us proactively to answer questions from all of those various aspects of government auditing and government accounting. They also told us we would be having periodic meetings to address current concerns and look for challenges, share information, and that they would give us some staff training tailored to our needs. Their proposed team, we're very familiar with Ben Hart. He was previously the CFO in Olathe and also with Unified Government. He now works for AGH. Shelley Hammond has been a presenter at many of the things staff has attended. Mr. Lowry, who is here tonight, has also been a presenter at many of the various seminars that staff has attended, and as well as Mr. Dick, who has been the guru for more than 40 years. An additional component is a little more emphasis on IT, and they've added an IT person to their proposed team who has worked in the computer industry since 1980 with many, many certifications and a master's in accounting. We will get the benefit of all that expertise. As I mentioned, there's a new point of emphasis, not that the other auditors didn't discuss IT, but I think they're going deeper. This particular firm, in their proposal, they stated they'd be doing systems and controls, the structure, hardware, software, business continuity, system access, and application controls. Finally, not only was AGH the cheaper of the two that were received, but also $4,000 cost savings over the last 2 years of Burgess Trade. And a single audit, we haven't had a single audit in years, and just for your information, that is only if we had federal expenditures in excess of $500,000. So that would be like if we had a grant from, we haven't had one that large for quite some time. So we are not particularly looking for a single audit to happen. In case it does, there's a price. It still doesn't matter, they're still cheapest. So, in summary, you're gaining a premier auditing firm at a cost savings. So staff recommendation is to please accept this three-year proposal for fiscal years 2012 through 2014 and actually authorize the city administrator to execute the engagement letter for this 2012 audit so we get started.
For discussion, interest of disclosure, obviously I don't vote, however, Alan Gibbs and Hulick are the administrators for the firm's 401k, and up until this year, the flexible spending account as well, so I will refrain from discussion regarding that.
I think we got everything that we had hoped for when we asked that this process go through a high-end firm and a cost savings, so success all around. I'm very thankful that we went through the process.
And I'm
Appreciate all the
very,
hard
very
work on that.
pleased. Very pleased. I mean, this is no question. They are a premier firm.
I can't remember, we didn't meet the bid last year, is that right?
We didn't because we had a pretty significant accounting standard to implement, and because we had, you gave one additional year last year to get us through that.
For 2011.
For 2011. And with the criteria to please go down. So we did.
Mayor, I'd just like to comment that I've worked with this firm on other governmental entities and just absolutely top quality service to work with.
I guess one thing I said in my council action form that I didn't say now is I did check references, and there is nothing but the highest praise. I absolutely, they all just glowed and gushed, so. And Mr. Lowry is here if you have any questions of him.
Anyone have any? I move that we authorize the city administrator to accept a proposal for audit services with Allen Gibbs and Hulick, LC, for fiscal year 2012, 13, 14, and execute an engagement letter for auditing services for fiscal year 2012.
Motion Freeman, second Harrison, that we accept, the city administrator accept the proposal for audit services with Alan Hulick. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Laura. Okay, that'll take us back to, thank you, Mr. Lowry, back to new business item number 1. Consider renewing a resolution supporting the application for tax credits for the construction of single-family housing at Willowbrook Estates. Amy.
The picture on your screen shows the entire Willowbrook Estates development, going a little bit off the page to the left. But the initial phases, there were single-family homes, and then the first phase of what later became known as Bethel Estates, and then the more recent phases of Bethel Estates. Those are outlined in blue, and that is senior housing in 4 classes. This resolution of support would be for single-family houses for seniors. That would be sort of an extension of Bethel Estates, except single-family houses instead of 4 classes. That area is outlined in yellow on McKinley Street and Oak Street. lots that are already platted. You did approve a resolution of support for this last year, but that expired at the end of 2012, which is why it's back before you. The project did not move forward yet. It's 33 detached homes targeted to the elderly with maintenance provided. Zoning was approved in 05, the plats were recorded in 06. There are no changes to existing approvals, legal use from that zoning district. And new resolution I'm proposing would expire January 31st, 2014. So staff would recommend approval. Are there any questions?
Indicated this was senior, so it is age?
Age restricted.
Age
And-
So what are those restrictions?
I don't recall if that was specifically listed in the resolution of support. That would be, I believe there's some flexibility allowed within the housing tax credits.
Mr. Rhodes is here.
Yeah, he is here as well.
It's depending on the number of people in the household. So if there's one person, up to 4 or 5 people. And these would all be, and they're not going to be just seniors. It would be toward families as well.
So what is the expected cost to build these? I mean, what would it?
Mr. Rhodes, if you could come forward.
I'm Dave Rhodes with Double Estates and the Wilbur Estates, 335 West Madison is our office location, in Gardner, Kansas. The expected cost, you're talking hard cost or the total project cost?
I guess what will the city's appraised value be on something like that?
I would think it would be somewhere in the $3 to $3.5 million.
Over how many property, I mean, how much per property?
Divided by 33, so $100,000.
And those are all going to be rentals, so.
There'll be rentals for 15 years, and at the end of the 15 years, the people that occupy it will have an opportunity to buy it, the first opportunity to purchase. And under this particular program, if they live there X amount of years after the 15 years, they get a discount on the purchase price. So if the house is appraised for $200,000, they potentially could buy the house for $100,000.
So why do you need tax credits then, or how does that work?
Because I'm renting them at a discounted rate.
What would the rent is, what would the rents be then?
I don't know those off the top of my head.
And they're, how many square feet and what?
I would bring back floor plans, and get building permits on each one of them. This is just a resolution of support, so I can make an application to the state to obtain tax credits. Once we obtain the tax credits, then I would be back into the Building and Code Department with floor plans for the houses.
I guess that's probably helpful to discuss the program itself and how the process works. Amy, David, I don't know who would be more appropriate to speak
How the program
to how
works?
Yeah, it's not we're not granting, we're supporting, I guess.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And we don't, so if we approve this doesn't mean that in 6 months, if you come back with plans, that those are just a given. Basically what it means is we'll go through the normal approvals for those.
Correct.
Just to clarify with our planning process, this property is already zoned and platted for single-family homes. The city cannot control whether homes are rented or owner-occupied. So approval of the resolution does not really have any impact on what goes there. What it has an impact on is whether or not we can offer these reductions in rent to make these more affordable for people. You get the same quality of building, it's just a matter of who would be able to live there.
Can you use a situation where there's a certain amount of tax credit dollars that are available for programs like this, and if they don't, if the tax credit dollars don't come to Gardner, they are going to go someplace else?
That's correct, yeah.
But it all falls on the state's budget, right?
The state is the one who makes that selection. I don't know too much about the state.
Right, I mean, the state is granting these credits at the expense of all the taxpayers, is that right?
The state,
Of the state.
the state has a certain amount of dollars that they're determining where to apply those, which projects will get those.
We did 2 resolutions of support. One was for the expansion of
We've done,
Willowbrook, and that passed, or that made it through the state, correct? And then the other one was for a single-family development, and the state denied, or that one didn't pass, and that was a
We've
project
done
on
several.
160, or north of 167 west.
yeah, we've done several for various phases of special estates. We've done one at Waverly Point, which did not go through, and then we did the one at University Park that did go through.
Right.
I have one quick question. I wasn't on the council, unfortunately, the last time this came up in 2011, but I did go back and at least looked at the minutes for the votes, and I know, Larry, you didn't vote for it last time, and I didn't, because I wasn't part of that conversation or the review, I didn't know what the reasoning was there, so I don't want to make sure I'm not missing something in it, or if it's just something you just, the tax credit itself, I wanted to know what that was.
Well, I guess I didn't have enough specifics on it, I still don't really feel like I do. I mean, you're asking us to support something, and there's really nothing in here that says what we're supporting. So, I mean, I guess from a fiscal conservative perspective, I'm not in favor of obligating all the citizens of Kansas to a project that benefits only a certain number of people. So I'm assuming there's some investment return as well on the project for you to these tax credits.
Good to know.
I mean, is that right? I mean, something happens to these tax credits to make an incentive for you to do this.
I'll explain how they work. I mean, basically, I'm trying to build houses to people that probably couldn't otherwise afford them. And I rent them for 15 years. And the way I do that is by making an application, which is a lottery process in the state of Kansas. There may be 40, 50 people that make applications in the state of Kansas, throughout the state of Kansas. If it doesn't happen in Gardner, it's going to happen somewhere else, because the state always issues the total amount of their tax credits. I feel like Bethel Estates has addressed the seniors that live in Gardner, and I actually am going to come back next month and ask you for another resolution of support for an additional phase, because the one that we just built this year is completely full, 100% full. And we have 5 people on the waiting list already, and we just finished it. So I'm going to come back and ask you for more for the seniors. But I felt like we have not addressed the families. And if the state doesn't, in this 40, 50 people that make application, and if the state doesn't think my application merits the criteria to be in the top 15 of those applications, I won't get the tax credits. Those tax credits are federal tax credits. It's not taken from the state, it's taken from the federal government. So you can spread it to a bigger path than just the state of Kansas. But I'm trying to build houses exactly like what's right next door. Something that'll be in, 12 to 1,500 square feet living space. They're going to rent anywhere from $550 up to about $1,100. It depends on their income.
So the size of
The size, it depends on their income.
okay, so their income is X, and there's a number of Y in the household.
The state actually wants us to address people that are at 50% of the median income, at 40% of the median income, and at 60% of the median income. So I'll have a percentage of these houses that will be available to people in the Kansas City statistical area that meet 40% of the median income. And I rent them to them. And I would maintain the exterior for snow, lawn care. I own them.
So can you put the map back up? for us, Amy?
Sure.
So you're saying the parcels of property, let's say to the west there in Jamestown, those are equivalent to what you're going to be building?
To the east.
I'm sorry, to the east, I'm sorry.
Correct.
But those are all, I mean, the 1,200 square foot ranch on those properties would be 150 or 160.
Correct.
And you're building them for 100,000.
You asked me what the appraised value would be. You didn't ask me what I was building it for.
And
The total project cost is going to be around $8 million.
And why is the appraised value is less to the city of Gardner because of the credits?
No, I think that's just the way appraisals probably come in.
So are the appraisals based on income? I mean, they're based on revenue per unit, or they're based on cost?
They're based on assessed value.
So, right, but the assessed value is either based on comparable sales, construction value, or income.
Correct.
So which of those three is it based on?
I don't know. You'd have to-
It can't be based on construction value, because 100,000 is nowhere near what it would cost to build.
Well, we just did phase 3, okay, in Bethel Estates of Gardner phase 3, and that's an $8 million project, and the appraised value for the county's purposes of taxes was around $3 million too. So I don't know the answer to your question.
So
You need to ask the county.
I think the answer is that they're based on income, not as the other people that are living on the adjacent property.
I don't think that's
I don't believe so.
Larry.
I mean, there's only three ways. I mean, we've
Yeah.
already discussed the three ways. There's income approach, there's cost comparison, and there's past sales.
I'm
So,
quite confident the county does not use income with the basis for appraisal.
well, I mean, on rentals, often they do, especially if they're all co-located.
So if you
And
read
selling
that,
prices and.
if you
I guess, so you asked the question, Eve, I mean, you're putting $100,000 properties next to $150,000 to $170,000 properties. I mean, that's not gonna help.
Are you sure that's what those properties are assessed at?
I mean, we can look them up, but I think, I know enough about the market, 1,400 square foot split level is certainly not 100,000. I mean, it's 140 or and a 1,200 foot range.
we're expecting the cost of those houses to be about $160,000.
Well, and like Amy
But
said.
again, we, as a city, get revenue on 100,000, right? We're not gonna get revenue on 160,000, which we would if we thought, why can't you just build houses there?
I guess my question is if you rebuilt your house today, would your assessed value be the same as it currently is? I don't believe so.
It'd be a little more expensive. Is that
Correct.
true?
Correct.
But you're
But
building,
it
you
wouldn't,
haven't built
it
it yet
wouldn't
at all.
be, it wouldn't be your replacement cost.
You can't build, I don't believe, for the price that you're talking. And, I mean, you said 160,000, you're building that, okay, so you have established that you're building houses for 160,000.
But we're arguing a number that have no factual
Well, I guess-
That's correct.
We're lost in numbers that don't make sense.
Wait a second, is the best use of Gardner's, tax base to have revenue derived on a $100,000 property, or would it be better if those were 160,000?
I mean, how many homes are in this lot right now?
I'm just waiting, I want to answer
How
that
many of you
question.
plan to build in that lot without these tax credits?
0.
There you go.
But you could sell
If you
that
own the
property
lot,
or
right?
build on them.
I own the lot.
Thank you.
But-
And it's single-family homes, we have no really control over what type of single-family homes, as you said, it's
Correct.
zone, right?
Yeah, so as
Well-
long as they meet the setbacks from the zoning regulations, they can build whatever they want there, they can rent them out.
So in all actuality, without these tax credits, you could go and build $50,000 homes if you wanted.
If the city
and rent-
approved the plan.
Right.
And the city would have very little basis to reject them since all of the planning approvals have already gone through.
Well,
So why do we have-
and besides that, you said that these are federal funds, I guess, distributed through a state-run program, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and Larry, you just mentioned earlier that our clients are the citizens of Gardner, Kansas, not the state of Kansas.
Well, they're also.
And it turns out,
Hang on, Larry first has the
Hey.
floor, let him speak.
And, as it turns out, it looks like this is federal money, not state money. Somebody's going to get this money, and I believe that Mr. Rhodes probably deserves the opportunity at that.
Okay, but when you compare what could be built there
You're giving it hypotheticals.
Well, I'm telling you, it's gonna affect the property values of the adjacent properties. If the appraised value is $100,000 and those people on those other streets are sitting at 150 to 160, plus you're getting revenue. I mean, am I wrong about that? Can someone explain that how we would not be getting revenue based on $100,000 worth of property value? Is that not?
The county, as you pointed out, has three ways to look at property values. Typically, on brand new construction, it's the cost that they look to. So if it costs $160,000 to build these, the county's gonna put them on the tax rolls at $160,000.
That's not what Mr. Rose said.
Well,
$100,000.
I'm telling you, that's what happens on brand new construction.
Except on rentals.
Well, he doesn't, you know, that's up to him, whether he's selling or renting, how he decides to build on his lots, but the county doesn't care. They're looking for the highest value they can put on the tax rolls for both county and the city and the school district. So my guess is they'd look at the construction cost to determine, you know, what the value of these properties are.
But he knows, he's been through this process before. And well, I mean, let's look at the properties that you have appraised now. How are they appraised? And the attached homes for the seniors?
You know, I guess, Larry, what frustrates me as a developer, I've got $30 million worth of investment in this city, and you are not interested in extending, you know, a letter of support to bring additional $8 million project to this city. And what you're doing is you're driving me away. So I'll just sit on the lots if you don't want to support it.
Are the lots currently appraised at
The lots are currently platted, and they've been platted since 2006, just sitting vacant.
And I pay taxes every year on them.
It would certainly, from the city's planning standpoint, be good to have these lots developed.
And I guess the other piece of it that we're not talking about, again, we're talking about representing citizens, and I agree. We do represent the citizens of Gardner. That's our job. We represent all citizens of this community. And that includes those citizens who currently live here that qualify for these single-family homes. And we would be providing them a good home, a very nice neighborhood, close to a high school and an elementary school, and providing them an opportunity at home ownership that may not otherwise be afforded to them. So I think, you know, from the standpoint of diversity of housing stock, you know, we don't have anything like this currently in our community. Obviously, we do have the current Willowbrook, which has been very, very successful from the standpoint of seniors, and great folks, a great community. We've had the opportunity to be out there. So, you know, that's another constituency that we also represent here. You know, should be considered in our discussions as well.
And I hope you would look at Bethel Estates and see the quality of that project and what's been built there. I'm going to own these for 15 years. I am not going to build something that I'm going to be disappointed with, so that my home ownership for 15 years is not going to have the ability to sell that to someone if I'm not here.
Gordon, what's the resolution for this?
1887.
I move that we adopt Resolution 1887 supporting the application for tax credits for the construction of affordable apartments at Willowbrook Estates located at the intersection of Oak Street and McKinley Street.
Second.
I think that should have been
Single family.
Single families, I'm sorry.
For the implementation.
Okay, thank you.
Motion, Gregorsek, second, Freeman, that we adopt Resolution 1887. Gregorsek.
Yep.
Freeman.
Yes.
Bodovich.
No.
Morrow.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
1887 passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David. New business item number 2. Consider approving and accepting easements and rights of way for the final plat of Arvest Bank in Gardner. That's final plat 12-06. Amy.
I can put a lot on one slide here, so I apologize for that. What you're approving is the larger image of the upper left, the final plat. And then here on the zoning, which is CC1, Central Business District, the 2012 aerial view at the lower left, and then lower right is the final development plan, which was approved by the Planning Commission at their December 18th meeting. So I included that on there so that you can see kind of how the lots divide with relationship to the development, especially with the existing office building already being there. This is a pretty straightforward application. Would simply change where the two lots are divided and include an access easement for access to lot 2.
So the Sycamore is an exit only from the property, is that?
Yes, that goes through the bank's drive-through.
Okay.
So the Planning Commission did recommend that you approve and accept the easements and rights of way for the final plat, subject to the stipulations on your screen. Any other questions for staff?
How would council like to proceed?
I move we approve and accept the easements and rights of way for the final plat of Arvest Bank, Gardner, subject to the conditions listed.
Motion Morrow, second Harrison, that we accept easements and rights of way for final plat 12-06. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. New business item number 3, consider authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with the Active Network Incorporated to provide Parks and Recreation software services through the ActiveNet and to absorb the convenience fees to customers for online transactions. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Apologize for sounding a little bit congested here, battling a little bit of a head cold, so please bear with me. Come to you this evening requesting consideration to allow us to upgrade our Parks and Recreation software that we currently operate under. The reason why we come to you for consideration is with this upgrade there will be some changes in some of the terms of our agreement with the Active Network, so it would require council approval. Currently, we utilize what is known as Recware Safari. It's our current program. It's used to maintain essentially all of our Parks and Recreation business, to include registration, our point of sale, that would include here at our customer service counter, as well as our concession stands, our admissions at the aquatic center, and things of that nature. Memberships that are solely with the Gardner Aquatic Center. Facility reservations that we do. It assists with some of our marketing efforts and some of our reporting as well. It's considered to be an outdated program at this point in time, at least according to the Active Network, the parent company that owns the software. It was introduced originally in 1998. We are currently experiencing some technical issues with the program. It is a client-server program requiring hardware and maintenance on our end. As of October of 2013, so this coming October, it will not be a supported product by the Active Network, meaning there will be no annual upgrades that will be provided and no technical support that we often have to rely on from time to time to deal with questions or any glitches and things that we may have. The Active Network is recommending an upgrade to their new product or newer product called the Active Net. Kind of recap or back up a step here. The RecWare Safari program was purchased by the City of Gardner in 2005 for just under $30,000. Again, it's owned by the Active Network. Our online registration, we do have that, but it is not operated in-house, so to speak. It is done through the Active Network remotely. Online registration customers are currently charged a service fee, which I'll get into a little bit when we discuss fees for that service. We do pay annual support fees for upgrades and technical support. It's currently at $9,245 a year. There is a migration offer being proposed. Some of those things that are included are the credit, implementation credit equal to 2 years, so that $9,245, 2 years of that would be applied as a credit to help us transition into this upgrade. There'd be a discounted online transaction fee from what is currently 6.5% to 4.5%, and there would be a weekly ACH remittance of $1,500 value applied as well. Registration to the 2013 user conference, if we so elected to send someone to that, that would be credited as well. And the credits would cover the estimated 92 hours of training that would be provided to the staff. Because our staff is familiar with the existing program, we feel comfortable that we can do all of that over the web. Credits would cover all the data transferring. You can imagine the thousands and thousands of transactions that we do and the customers that we have. It's important to us to also be able to transfer all that data over for a smooth transition. So we cover that as well. So what is the ActiveNet? It is a web-based hosted software for recreation management. It's remote-based, which means you can access anytime wherever you have the internet. It is PCI compliant, fully maintained infrastructure, and there would be low upfront costs. Basically what we're looking at out-of-pocket costs for us would be to simply upgrade our credit card scanners. We would have to use our credit card scanners. That's estimated at somewhere between $500 and $600 total. So that would be out of our pockets. Federal Cloud Computing Initiative as well. Very similar to how we do our business today. We continue to support all of our activity registration, our membership management, our point of sale, our reporting, facility reservation, league management, improvements in our marketing. We have had a demonstration, had a representative come here from the company, gave all of our staff a demonstration of the new product. Alex, who is here this evening, sat in on that to ask questions from a technical standpoint, and we all felt very comfortable with the upgrades and the new look. Over 4,000 community organizations are partnering with the Active Network for this software as well. Some of the key benefits, ActiveNet has expanded functionality to improve customer service and to save staff time. The online interface can reach a broader audience. Our staff will be able to, wherever there's internet, will be able to access these records and things with our being able to log on. So whether it be from their phones or from computers, at the concession stands and whatnot. So much more accessible. Social media is built into the online program. to reach out to customers on Facebook, Twitter, et cetera. Obviously, that's becoming more and more part of daily business today, so something we want to look into a little bit more. The interface has enhanced features such as system profiles to ensure auditing and security protection. The ease of use has improved with features such as automatically emailing reports and so forth. So, for example, if our concession staff closes down for the evening, we can have it set up to automatically email reports for the daily transactions to us. It is built off of Recware Safari, as I indicated, so it would be very similar to staff, similar look, similar operations, allowing us to pull over data and so forth. So certainly a benefit there. I put together a couple of charts to give you some examples of, or to give you an example of what we'd be looking at potentially with cost. This first chart shows you a breakdown on what it is today. I utilized 2011 actual revenue transactions to give you a comparison here. So under Recware Safari, as we are today, you can see our annual fee there is listed at $92.45. The left column under 2011 revenue, you'll see that that's what we did in revenues for our various programs, activities, and services. So a little over $533,000 in cash or check transactions here, 238,000 of them in credit card. We currently pay the credit card processing fee as it's set up today. And so you see the fee that we have there for 2011. Online sales, as I mentioned, that's done remotely. We pay the 6.5% plus $1 on each transaction, and so you can see the breakdown there. So total cost of the system for the $841,000 plus in revenues was about $20,834. The next chart, very similar chart, but it would be with the new program. We would be charged, instead of an annual fee, and basically have it set up to pay for each transaction that you do. So you're paying for what you use. So the cash or check transactions that are done here, it'd be 1.5%. The transaction fee for credit card, same thing, 1.5%. The credit card processing, since all the transactions would be run through their servers, they would have to pay those service fees, and that's at 2.25%. I did take a look back at the last 11 months, and on average, we're paying about 2.34% per month, so a little bit less than what we're currently paying in credit card processing. Online sales, as I mentioned, they would, the introductory offer for the first year would be 4.5% for online sales plus the $1. So total cost of the system, in comparison, a little over $21,000 there. Something that we're also asking for council to consider, I think this would be an appropriate time, is currently our online customers, they pay that service fee. It's a little uncommon these days, I think, and something that I think we can consider absorbing as part of our cost of business here. So with that, we would ask that you consider approving that we upgrade to the ActiveNet program as the terms have been outlined, and consider absorbing the convenience fees for online transactions in an effort to improve customer services. With that, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that you may have.
Sure. Oh.
Sorry, go ahead.
With the cost comparisons you shared with us, does that take into considering the convenience fees, absorbing the convenience fees?
Yeah, as you can see here, and I'll go back to the two charts.
Yeah.
The online sales currently under the Recware Safari, our customers are paid the 6.5%, the $4,500 plus the $1. So currently they are paying that. I broke it out that way. so you could see what the total cost is. Here, whether you decide to pass that cost on to the customer that uses online services or that we absorb it, that's the breakdown there on that chart. So.
The $1,500 for weekly ACH,
Yes.
can you explain to me what that gets us?
Yeah, they have an option. For some customers, they simply mail you a report and your share of the revenues, your check every 2 weeks. You can have it set up to, I believe it's a weekly automatic deposit into your bank. And they typically charge new customers that $1,500 fee to set that kind of stuff up. So that would be an option to us at no cost, whether we decide to do that or not.
And that's for us to get our money?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Jeff, I'm guessing, you know, you're comparing the costs in 2011, but with ActiveNet not going to be supporting the regular Safari anymore.
Yes, sir.
Are some of the costs that we're going to absorb because of maintenance and repair and things of that nature going to be greater because they're, we're going to have to get separate support for an older system that they're not supporting any longer?
Right. And I really think the major glitch that we are experiencing today is one that does cost quite a bit of time on staff's part. For some reason, I'm not exactly sure why today, but most recently, we've experienced that the communication between online registration and our system here is not transferring over some of the custom questions we have. For example, we have a lot of uniform sizes that we ask for our athletic programs. If they register online, those are custom questions. If that data does not transfer over to our system, then when we're placing orders or working with our coaches and the information's not there, we have to go pull it from another report and do something else. So I think we're dealing with something that simply is outdated to the point they've moved on to quote-unquote bigger and better things. And I think at this time, understanding there's very minimal to no cost to the city, the data will be transferred over to the new program. Quite honestly, if we find that we do not like it, we can easily get out of it. We simply quit using it, and we're not paying any fees for it. So we can almost have a trial period, so to speak, with very little cost other than some credit card scanners.
Did they provide uptime data on their servers? Since we're not hosting any longer, it's in the cloud, and so our uptime is dependent upon them.
If I understand your question, Matt, the current system, it syncs basically every hour. So as people are registering, and that works most of the time with the exception when we open a program such as swimming lessons that are very popular. We actually have a start time and date. We actually have to sit in here and hit a sync button to make sure that information is updating immediately. It's been explained to me with the new program, it's instantaneously, so that information will be up to date as soon as it's plugged in.
And then now I was thinking more on their reliability. What, how, since we're going to a hosted system, we're dependent upon their ability to keep those servers up and running.
So what's our down, have they ever provided any downtime reports?
I mean, is there any?
Yes, it's actually built into the contract, and it would be very similar to the responses that we have today. If it's something that's of immediate nature, then it's a matter of hours, I think, and I'd have to double check this exactly, but I did read through that. If it's something that we need immediately, it's a technical issue that is stopping our business, so to speak, then they have technical staff that can address those things immediately. If it's something that's not of that nature, then that time period is longer. Does that answer your question?
It does.
And I'd be happy to provide that actual details to you.
And the only other, and I don't need an answer tonight, would be to research any red flag compliance issues that would result from this. I'm assuming they're housing the customer's data, right?
From a security perspective.
Right. And so I don't know what our red flag obligations are.
It said it was PCI
Yes.
compliant.
It's PCI compliant.
PCI
Already.
compliant.
Okay. And I assume they've got copies of the certification.
I would
and so
assume.
on. Okay. Okay.
And it'll have to be done here too, I suppose, as part of our quarterly. Or somebody will be doing it, whether it's us or not.
And they're a very, very large organization, certainly doing this for lots of folks. Just for comparisons, I did do a little price shopping too with some other similar. There's a couple of organizations that are common to, or software programs that are common. If we were looking to make a complete change and do something similar that we're doing today, this initial startup cost, we would be looking in the neighborhood of $70,000 just to get started. So this would probably be a better step at this time for us to make an improvement at very minimal cost and see how we go.
And we've been pleased with their response.
Yeah. Minimal concerns, certainly good staff that we have worked with both on our side, and I think, I don't want to speak for Alex, but I think he's had some pretty good working relationships with some of the technical staff as well.
Yeah, technical and the customer service.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions? How would the council like to proceed to business item number 3?
I move we authorize the city administrator to enter into an agreement with the Active Network Incorporated to provide parks and recreation software services through the Active Net and to absorb the convenience fees suggested.
Motion Morrow, second Freeman, that we authorize city administrator to enter an agreement with the Active Network Incorporated. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
New business item number 4, consider adopting resolution number 1888, declaring it necessary to appropriate private property or interest therein for the Center and Main Intersection Improvements Project, and to further cause a survey to be made of such land. Tim?
Yes, in December, council gave staff authority to move ahead with right-of-way acquisition on the Center and Main Intersection project. That work is ongoing. The city's agent, Land Company, is in the process of negotiating for the right-of-way and easements. The purpose for this resolution is to allow us the opportunity, if we have to go to condemnation, which is the next step in that process. We're hopeful that we won't need to go to condemnation, but in the interest of keeping the project on schedule, we want to take this step so if it comes to that point, we're ready to move forward with the condemnation process. That's simply what it is, staff recommending the approval of that resolution.
Questions? 1888.
I move we adopt resolution number 1888, authorizing city staff to proceed with preparation and acquisition of descriptions for land that must be acquired for the Center and Main Intersection Improvement Project.
Second. Motion Harrison, second Gregorczyk, that we adopt resolution number 1888. Harrison?
Yes.
Gregorczyk?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Bodovich, yes. 1888 passes. Thank you. New business item number 6, authorize the city administrator to appoint Michael Hall for Community Development Director. Cheryl
Yes,
and Mary.
yes, Mayor and Council, in accordance with the city code, the appointment of directors requires, confirmation by mayor and council. Mary is going to provide an overview of the process that was utilized to, select the applicants that we are requesting recommendation to, and approval for appointment.
Good evening, thank you. As you'll notice, first of all, we'd like to thank you for the ability to walk this on for you this evening. As you know, recruitment process, this has been a lengthy process. We have done a great deal of due diligence as we'll walk through with you, so we do appreciate the opportunity to bring this forward this evening. We began, as you know, in August, where we came forward and asked for approval for Community Development Director. And with the council's approval of that new position, we began through the process, updating job descriptions and getting things ready. So we did send out advertisements for resumes. We did receive 59 resumes for our Community Development Director. All these resumes were thoroughly vetted by qualifications, and we had a scoring system that we went through to determine who would come to the top of that. We did select 13 candidates that we sent out questionnaires, very similar to the process that you all were familiar with when we sent out to search for our city administrator. We sent out various questions and asked them to submit information back to us. We reviewed those were reviewed by both myself and our city administrator. And we pulled that down, and we went through and looked for what this council had asked us to look for in economic development and planning and moving our city forward. Also, it was very nice to have Cheryl's expertise in planning and development as well, moving through this process. We did narrow it down to 4 candidates, and at that time, those candidates were contacted. One candidate did withdraw, had some personal issues that would not allow them to continue in the process. So we then began to thoroughly vet through 3 of those candidates again. I will also let you know that the 13 candidates, part of what I did, we went out and we looked on all their cities' websites. I spent time watching their planning commission minutes, meetings. I've looked at meetings. I've watched people do presentations to present those candidates to Cheryl. So we spent probably over a month just watching and reviewing and looking at the candidates to see the type of candidates that we would bring forward. So we did an extensive background work on those candidates. Also looked at their comprehensive plan, what they were bringing forward, what they'd done, if they hadn't done it, where were they in their career, and how were they moving their individual cities or organizations forward. So we narrowed it down to 4. As I said, we then began our interview process. This was a really fun process. Cheryl, myself, and the entire director team was part of that interview process. Those candidates spent 9 hours with us one day. And besides, I had a lot of interaction with them on the phone prior, talking and going through various things. But they came in here and spent 9 hours with us. They went through a formal interview process with, we separated people. We had a couple directors going through and doing formal interview processes. We had informal interviews and tours of the city with other people out in vehicles and walking them through. Here's what the city looks like. What do you see? What are your thoughts? We also gave them an hour, each of them an hour we gave them scenarios, and they had to prepare a presentation in an hour. At the end of the day, they all came back to the council chambers and presented their presentation to us. I will also tell you that our directors had a very good time sitting at the dais, being the council, asking them questions. I did. Yes. I was very quiet.
Just like me.
Just like you. So it was really, we got great feedback from our candidates. They were like, wow, this was really intense, but this was really a lot of fun. And they did this together. So those 3 candidates saw each other performing, and we did that. We wanted to see how they interacted. Would they interact well together? Would they upstage each other? What were we going to get in this process? So we spent 9 hours. I'm not sure about the candidates, but we were all exhausted. It was great. So after that, we sat down and then we visited again. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are we looking for? 2 of the candidates kind of rose to the top. Cheryl went through those, and what we're bringing forward to you tonight is Mr. Hall. Mr. Michael Hall. He's from Boise, Idaho. I have attached his resume for you as well, and if you have any questions, we're happy to answer for you. I want to make sure you understood what we did go through in getting to this point. It's been very expensive, and I really feel like we're bringing you a good candidate. We've done a lot of due diligence. Yes.
I have a question, just
Yes.
reviewing the resume quickly.
Uh-huh.
I guess the first thing that sticks out to me, I assume Mr. Hall kind of spoke to it, is, you know, it's a complete change of scenery in almost all regards. It's a city of 210,000 compared to the city of, you know, 20, maybe 25, 30 upcoming also. He's been with the organization 15 years, so I wonder if he spoke to some of the reasons that made him think Gardner was an attractive position for where he wanted to go with his career.
Yes, he looked at the opportunities that we had. Also, just by way of background, if you look at his resume, he kind of started in municipal government and plans to either spend their entire career in municipal government, or they go into specialized areas of economic development, redevelopment, community development. And he spent quite a bit of time in economic development, redevelopment, community development, and this is an opportunity to come back into municipal government, which allows him to actually bring quite a bit of expertise, because you typically learn how to move projects and negotiate with the development community, and you're still customer service if you want to do community development, redevelopment.
Where's the say 200,000 people?
Like Google.
Yes. Boise.
Yeah, I just looked at it briefly before we got started. 210,000, I think, 206 in development.
Sure, got blue football fields, so maybe.
Yeah.
The thing that I keyed in on was the EDC component that he has in his resume. I think that that's a wonderful hat and tool to bring to our city of 20,000, for a lot of reasons that I don't think we need to get into now, but I think that's the selling point for me. The con for me would be, he was able to move every 2 to 3 years, and then I think it would be, 4 or 5 years between May of 2002 and spring of 2007. Are we going to be able to provide him the challenge that he seems to, you know, from his track record, seems to thrive for and is thirsty for in our in our town?
It is my hope that through the development of a new comprehensive plan, through the development of a vision or a strategic plan to move this city forward, that we will be able to provide that challenge. I think absent some of those key projects that are really dealing with growth issues, with economic development issues, with annexation, it could be a challenge. So it is my hope that this council will allow us to continue to move forward to develop that comprehensive plan, and that we would be developing a vision plan. And we will be coming back to you with a request to go out and do the comprehensive plan, so that you have some meaningful work product to work on.
And, you know, I think with the development of the logistics park, you know, that's going to create a lot of change in this area. And I think we'll certainly be able to challenge him there. And I agree on the economic development piece, that is is something that we need very strong, and to be able to have that supplemented in-house is a real strength.
And that's what I was
for us.
alluding to when I said that
Yeah,
earlier.
I think that would be a real strength for us to have that. I do, and I get, you know, the other side of it is if we keep him engaged in college for 5 years and he does wonderful things and gets stuff set up, then yay.
Money well spent.
Yeah. So
we're going to challenge you, Cheryl, to keep them busy.
Adopt that plan, and do a comprehensive plan, let's get a vision on it. I think we can.
So once we hire this gentleman in the review, what is the purpose of the Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce? Is
question mark that we are
That's
discussing.
a very good question. Because what you are hiring now is someone who has the expertise to do, proactive economic development on behalf of the city. Only the city. And
Yeah,
that's
he'd be-
10%.
He'd be acutely focused.
He would be acutely focused, he could be an advocate for the city, he could lead those efforts and develop an economic development plan for the city. And we would be able to supplement his skills with a planning manager who could do the day-to-day operations. So it's a pretty premier, unique opportunity that I think the city has with the director and with the planning manager.
So when does our payment go to the EDC and the chamber?
We have no contract, with them at this time, so we need to really address the payment and the contract.
I don't think there's been any payments
We
made at
haven't,
this point.
we haven't made any payments for this year. We've only made payments.
I think we could roll it up with the EUB, and, I mean, there's a plethora of things that I think we could self-perform in-house and get more bang for our buck, and know that he's riding for the brand versus 15 other brands, based on the premium that EDC's receiving.
Was your realignment based on was it based on still paying the $25,000 to each of those entities, or was it based on just realigning the employees to have more positions at lower cost?
I think both. Looking at some cost reductions, but also looking at some things that when the EDC presentation was made, one of the questions that came up was, can we self-perform? And I think the opportunity, my response at that time was, let's take a look at what happens with the director, and then we'll come back and report that. And I think based on the skill set that we're seeing in a director, as well as having a planning manager, there's a very viable possibility that we could self-perform that.
But I don't think your original estimates of costs, they didn't include the $25,000 for each of those entities.
No, that would be an additional $25,000 savings. If you decide to self-perform, the $20,000 number that we talked about in cost savings did not include that. So that would be an additional $25,000 if you self-perform.
And just, why did we have to get this at the last minute? What was the
The interview process, after the interview process, we actually were given 9 references to Shaq. This is a very critical hire for the city. So we want to take the time to go through all the references, being able to go through those references over the holidays, and, getting in touch with all of the candidates was a real challenge. We have the option to bring this to you at the next meeting, but if we brought it to you tonight and you supported it, we could finalize everything with him tomorrow, and we have that 2 weeks where he's in the process of giving notice and preparing to come here to start. 2 weeks.
So, and so what is the wage, the range of salary?
The range,
You remember?
I don't remember. Do you have the range?
I did not like it. I can get it.
Okay.
It's director level,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, but I don't know what the minimum and the maximum is for that range.
But it's director level.
It's direct, it would be a director, it would be the director level that was approved in the salary ordinance, that's correct.
Not to exceed 5 minutes.
I'm just trying to get a feel for what the difference is from the 50,000 that we're not spending overly on an outside party as opposed to what it's going to cost us for this. Just curious.
What would that potential savings, Larry, offset the salary?
Yeah, and the other thing that you want to be thinking about
It's a
is,
selling point.
I was just buying time for Jeff.
and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things you want to be careful is you don't want to look at just a dollar for dollar, because when you have an advocate, that is an advocate for the organization only, and the ability to market and to develop an economic development plan specifically for the city, you see that return on investment in projects that you have developed in your city.
In the salary ordinance that was passed, this is a range 8, it's a director range. The monthly minimum is $5,983. The monthly maximum is $8,403. I also will remind you that when we did come forward and ask for this position, the funds that were slated for the assistant city administrator were actually moved over to this position, so the funds were already in the budget as well, so there's no additional cost to the general fund.
He could support EUB, he could support the city, he could support, I mean, from an EDC perspective.
Yes.
So where do we think we're gonna fall in that range, can you say?
I don't know.
What, can we ask what he is currently, his last position, salary?
Yes, that's it. And I don't know that, that's the only indicator, because, I believe through discussions with him, that we have an opportunity to present, maybe come to an organization that is on the cusp of a major transformation. And professional opportunities are important when people are considering employment. So, at this point, I'd like to have the council to allow me to negotiate with him and kind of present what we have to offer and what he brings to the table, and try to get the most value for the dollar on behalf of the organization.
Yes, his current salary is at $88,000.
And the weather's better here.
Oh, yeah, you don't have those annoying hills.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, our snowfall is significantly less. Where's Boise at all? Anyway. Well, how would council like to proceed?
I move we authorize the city administrator to appoint Michael Hall for community development director.
Second. Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Keith.
Mr. Moore.
All right, I move, motion Harrison, second Morrow, that we authorize the city administrator to appoint Michael Hall for the position of community development director. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Great, thank you all very much. Staff, anything further for council this evening? Welcome to 2013. Council, anything to staff?
I have something, but I don't know if I'm going about it the right way, so just coach me along here if necessary. But I'd like to ask Cheryl if we could alert the EUB chairman more as a courtesy, because I'm very interested in having the council at the next work session really take a look, a deep dive, and assess that ordinance that is currently on the books, of which the EUB is operating in and under.
One question, next work session is our visioning discussion, so it would be February.
February, yes, sir.
Work session.
Okay.
So I had another thought that ties into the weekly reports. I wonder if there's a way that we might be able to summarize even some of those, obviously it may not be as complete, but something that we might be able, and the reason it does a really good job highlighting some successes departmentally and like city organization things that we could actually use as with our social media outlets, the websites and things, and actually put it on for the public as well. A public sort of that we released on Friday evenings or Monday mornings that'd be available. I think the subscriptions to the Facebook page are getting more, and the Twitter feed, and even the website. So if there's just another avenue to communicate with the residents, some of the day-to-day operations that get oversight of it, and also some of the achievements that people may not recognize as well.
Okay.
We would, assume that Eileen's comfortable with that. that aspect of
Let's
it.
just look at it and see how we might do the.
Okay.
Very
Well,
good
that's
point.
information to share, but yeah,
Just
to
how
build
we might
that up
get
and-
that out to the public.
Katie was the New Year mom, so we've got Eileen filling in that role. Yeah, that would be very good, particularly on, you know, I know when, if we actually have a snow event, we always get the update of, you know, on the hours, you know, so on. That's very helpful.
They do a great job, I think, it's a good way to communicate.
It is a good way to talk about it.
Because they're not going to get picked up other outlets.
I've got one quick question. When we were finishing up the last meeting, which seems like an awful long time ago, we were talking about school safety issues. Captain Moore was waiting to hear something back. I was just wanting to make sure that the police department, the Gardner PD, and the school district administration had a chance to get together and talk about school security.
I'll get an update for you in my
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there was something in the report back last week, but maybe 2 weeks ago, where they talked about the crisis management folks and they updated those.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that was part of like a live meeting, but he did kind of give a summary of some things that they had done.
Yeah.
And I emailed Joe House to that same, or in that same vein, but I haven't heard back from him.
Great. Being no more business before the council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Freeman, we adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all very much. Take care. See you Monday night.
Okay, I will come in and work on it. I just picked one.
Oh,
Why?